Hello everyone and welcome back to the show. Get ready before we dive into today's roller coaster of emotions by subscribing to Sister Wives Underground. And thumbs up if you've ever had your mind blown by how family drama unfolds. For years, Cody Brown's complicated web of relationships with his sister wives has engaged and enraged viewers. This once intact family survived 3 divorces, and now only Robin Brown remains standing alongside Cody. But is her presence one of the reasons it all fell apart? Here's where it gets real. It appeared to most viewers that Cody's blatant favoritism towards Robin did more than ruffle the feathers of the other wives. It destroyed the entire family structure into 100 pieces. Tensions had been simmering, then finally boiled over. Even Cody's own kids eventually turned their backs on him. What resulted in such complete collapse then? One of the loudest voices in this drama belongs to Cody Brown, daughter of Christine Brown. Being close to Cody and Robin initially, something dramatically altered. An emotional event turned it all on its head, and during a recent tell-all special, Cody went too far in admitting what happened. Keep reading because what Cody revealed will leave you speechless. As a cast member who isn't afraid to speak her mind, Cody often provides fans unvarnished opinions regarding their time on the show. She even uploads exclusive headlines and behind-the-scenes facts on her Patreon that are never broadcast on TV. And during February 2025, she let one bombshell fly. In an emotional video, Cody explained that her dad isn't the same man she once looked up to. She recalled the way, before Robin arrived, Cody treated all his wives and kids with warmth and equal respect. But now, she says he's been cold, rude, and even referred to his former wives as nasty and bullies. That was when Cody mourned the loss of the father she had known, a father who suddenly felt like a stranger. But what prompted such an agonizing change in their relationship? The tension boiled over after the tragic passing of Garrison Brown. Up until that point, Cody was one of the few children who still stood by Cody and Robin, even allowing Robin to attend her births and having family time with them. But after Garrison's funeral, something broke. The tragedy exposed raw emotions, and what came after that was Cody speaking out about her love life gone awry with her dad. Her once unbreakable commitment now tainted by heartache and disappointment. What did Cody do then? In a recent sit-down conversation with host Sukanya Krishnan, Cody danced around the issue. But if you listen between the lines, what he says suggests that he's just realizing how far the pain extends and how much was lost in terms of trust. But that is only the tip of the iceberg. Stick with us because in part 2 of this tear-jerking story, we delve into what Cody said to us next and how it left us questioning more than answering. Don't leave us hanging. During the recent tell-all, one tense moment put everyone into shock. Cody Brown suddenly brought up a memory. The last time he had public display of affection, PDA, with Robin, he said he felt like he was kicked out of the family for it. But when questioned further, Cody refused to expound. The room went silent. Even the host was amazed. Why carry something so personal and then leave it behind like that? Fans were left hanging, and speculation was flying. Some fans believe that the enigmatic moment is connected with Cody's feud with Cody. In her own tearful videos, Cody revealed that she had severed all ties with Cody and Robin, and stated that something occurred at the funeral of Garrison that caused everything to shift. And that's where the theory becomes incisive. Did Cody coddle Robin and her children too much at the funeral, an occasion for grief and harmony? Some believe Cody tried as hard as he could to be loving and supportive in public, but perhaps in the process, left Janelle's family, most especially the ones grieving Garrison, the most behind. While there's no official admission, the emotional cracks are evident. Cody's crying and Cody's defensive behavior provide the public with a glimpse into the truth. But what's your opinion? Was Cody's PDA announcement an ulterior confession or another attempt at avoiding the actual question? And now, things get a little more revealing. Years of ducking the truth ended with Robin Brown finally speaking up, and what she revealed might just leave you stunned. For as far back as anyone could tell, people asked themselves if Robin was Cody's favourite wife. So did Christine, so did Janelle, even Mary flirted about it. But today, we finally have evidence, not only from Cody but from Robin herself. Let's take a rewind for a moment. Cody's marriages to Christine, Janelle and Mary all ended in complicated divorces, both emotionally and spiritually. The impact wasn't just taken by the family, it was also taken by viewers. Fans who had once been enamored of this plural marriage watched it disintegrate before their eyes. After the dust finally cleared, Cody sought grief counseling to deal with losing his family life. But Robin? Robin remained serene, unrattled, and, to many, stunningly unmoved. Why? Because she was never really losing anything. She was always Cody's everything. Even as the family broke apart, the bond between Cody and Robin grew only stronger, something each of his 3 former wives openly acknowledged. And now, Robin has finally spoken up. On a recent episode, Robin cemented what everyone already knew: she's the favourite. And according to her, Cody Brown this was not an error in judgment, but a truth that had been smothered beneath decades of tension and denial. Robin's position as the privileged wife wasn't a hypothesis, it was the basis of the breakdown. And so now the question is, was Robin's admission a moment of truth, or a clincher in an already fractured family? In the next part of this story, we'll break down exactly how Robin revealed the truth, what Cody said in his own words, and how the sister wives world reacted in real time. You won't want to miss this. Stay tuned. When Cody Brown finally addressed the problem of favoritism, viewers looked for a genuine reason. What they got instead? A bizarre and insulting explanation. Cody blamed the other wives for a reason why Robin was his favourite being simple. The other wives in his mind were not faithful. This comment immediately generated outrage. Supporters on Twitter criticised Cody for the implication, some even suggesting it was like he was comparing Christine, Janelle and Mary to cheating dogs. The backlash came quickly and ferociously, and to ignite tempers further, Robin Brown added fuel to the fire in the most low-key but stinging way. On the season finale tell-all with Sukanya Krishnan mentioned above, cast members had one-on-one intimate interviews. That is where deep-rooted tensions finally erupted. Christine, Janelle and Mary, the original Sister Wives trio, revealed one of the several small but significant ways in which Cody placed himself and Robin above them. When they travelled together as a family and booked hotels, Cody would automatically stake out the luggage rack for himself, leaving the women to place their bags on the floor. A small thing? Maybe, but to them it was one more sign that he did not have much space, physical and otherwise, for them. When Sukanya brought this up to Robin, she was evasive at best, condescending at worst. She laughed, calling it so stupid. She explained that she always rode the luggage rack when she travelled with Cody, not because he gave way to her, but because she got there first. In her version, Cody never behaved towards her like that, something that was not lost on everybody. The audience members interpreted this as Robin flaunting, rubbing her favourite wife, fame in everybody's face again. To most, it wasn't what she said as much as how she said it. There was a hint of superiority that seemed to slither over her words, as if she were reminding everyone and the audience, matter-of-factly, that in Cody's mind, she would always come first. And as these moments add up, the picture becomes clearer. This family, once built on shared principles and unity, has broken irreparably. Cody Brown, the rugged patriarchal face of a giant multifaceted family once seen, is now standing in the ashes of what used to be. His former unbreakable clan has fallen apart in front of millions of eyes, leaving emotional wreckage in its trail, and the only person left standing beside him, Robin, the most divisive character in all of the Sister Wives saga. What once was a brazen experiment in plural love has transmuted into a public breakdown, playing out season after season on TV. The fallout continues, not just for the ex-wives, but for the children who once took their father's promises at face value. One of the loudest voices in this story now belongs not to Robin, not to Cody, but to a daughter who once thought so much of him, and now sees him through the bitter lens of betrayal. So where does the Brown family go from here? And is there hope still to repair the heartache that's been laid bare for the entire world to witness? One of the adult daughters is now part of the growing numbers of disillusioned children complaining about the emotional abandonment by their father. Her evidence, unflinching, candid, and unashamedly human, brings a new dimension to the damage done by favoritism, abandonment, and broken promises. In her frank observation, the audience sees the hidden wounds caused by years of lopsided love and shifting loyalties. This young woman, daughter of one of Cody's former wives, a woman who long since had moved on to something more promising, had once held a position near the family's heart. Unlike most of her siblings, she shared an open relationship with Cody and Robin, enabling them to be a part of her most intimate milestones. She laid them open to her inner life, her joyful moments, her personal growth. But it all crashed down after a tragic loss in the family. A funeral, an event that should have bonded the family together in mutual grief, was the turning point. There was silence instead of comfort. There was separation instead of consoling one another. They went their separate ways broken, further apart than they ever were. In a heartfelt online message, she described her heartbreak and how the man she had always called Dad had essentially vanished from her life. She remembered the man he used to be, a father who embodied equality, tolerance, and great responsibility to all wives and children. A man who embodied what it meant to live a plural family life with affection and compassion. But that ideal of her father began to fade the instant one woman, Robin, was a constant central figure in the family dynamic. That was when his attention became narrow, his affection changed, and the balance they had once shared was gone. Over time, she witnessed more than bigotry. She witnessed Cody distort history to justify the current. He began calling women he once loved toxic and challenging. To her, it was a betrayal, watching the man who built their family vilify the women who raised it. But the saddest moment was not some explosive family fight or shouting match. It was at a somber memorial service, a day when everyone should have come together under the overwhelming weight of grief. Rather, it uncovered the truth. The father who should have comforted all his children seemed to take sides. As eyewitnesses portrayed him, his behavior at the funeral was not just cold, it represented a sudden shift in the emotional core of the family. Where there should have been intimacy, there was estrangement. Where there should have been shared mourning, there were agonizing silences. And it was then that it became clear to many. The man who had once boasted of being a father to many had emotionally become available to one side only. This is the sad truth of the fall of a once great family. Not an event, but a trail of subtle betrayals, emotional favoritism, and erasure of shared history. As the Sister Wives drama continues, the hurt left behind is no longer clandestine. They're being spoken aloud, not by authoritative adults, but by the children who lived it. Will healing ever occur, or is there just too much damage already done? Tune in as we continue looking at the emotional fallout and buried histories in the public breakdown of the Brown family. While the world had been observing Cody Brown struggle to keep his family intact, something became increasingly evident. Instead of care about all his kids during a shared time of loss, he appeared far more concerned with Robin and her kids. Whether intentional or not, that choice came out screaming with a loud and wrenching message, a message about where his priorities now actually lie. After reflecting on the funeral, the longtime family friend slowly drew away, physically and emotionally. She was vocal afterward, unmasking the pain of losing two family members at once, the sister they were in town to honor and the father she once trusted. Her words were true. Audience members who had watched this family for over a decade were heartbroken. They had watched the Brown family's devolution from tight-knit harmony into emotional breakdown, and now this daughter's testimony gave a voice and a face to that devastation. Later, in a live TV report, Cody was once again faced with the damage in his relationships with his children, but instead of answering, he deflected. He referred to a moment, a situation in which he and Robin expressed public show of affection only to be chastised by the rest of the family. He said that produced a type of emotional exile, a cold shoulder from his kids. Rather than accept blame for his part in the growing distance, however, Cody made subtle remarks, omitting specifics and leaving everyone more frustrated than ever. To some, his statement seemed an attempt to redefine himself as a victim, refusing to see how his own actions, including blatant favoritism by rank, contributed to the alienation. They weren't buying it. Online support poured in for the daughter. Her bravery and honesty, some said, in speaking out about the pain so many children of dysfunctional homes experience but do not speak. While Cody was universally deplored for still refusing to accept reality, for creating tales that had no bearing whatsoever on what audiences had witnessed before their own eyes. Even though the exact details surrounding what happened at the memorial were never officially confirmed, the emotional consequences that followed could not be overruled. The rift between Cody and his children continues to widen, and the bond of trust that held them together seems virtually impossible to repair. A former loyal supporter, the daughter has now stepped back. She's focused on healing, choosing self-care, reflection, and inner peace over family drama. And in the age of celebrity, where personal stories are acted out on the public stage, under the spotlight of opinion, that choice is powerful. Because although exposure can be agonizing, it can also be freeing. This is more than the story of a family falling apart. It's the story of a daughter standing up, of children making decisions about boundaries, and of a patriarch facing the truth he worked so hard to ignore. As the cameras keep rolling and the world keeps watching, here's one thing that's certain. The real story belongs to Cody no more. It belongs to every kid, every ex-wife, and every voice that will not be silenced. Now that the spotlight of the media is on this once private family, the younger generation steps forward, claiming their voices, opposing erroneous reports, and refusing to be bound by the legacy they've inherited. What had appeared a harmonious portrait of shared belief and harmony is now a cautionary tale, one of injustice, bias, and the deep cost of emotional abandonment. And now, as the saga of the family goes on, the effects of earlier decisions ripple ahead, rewriting not just personal relationships, but the Brown family history itself. Even Cody and Robin, the last couple standing, may still adhere to the principles they once professed. The reality in the background is a very different one. A story marked by damaged relationships, decades of unilateral emotional labor, and the unmistakable sting of having been chosen last. With the emotional residue settling on what was once a big, ambitious, polygamous family, one thing has finally been openly acknowledged. Robin Brown was, and still is, the pet. For decades, viewers suspected as much. The other wives telegraphed it, the children sensed it, and now Robin has quietly, though inexorably, supported it, not modestly or in denials, but in what strikes many as quiet, confident assertion. This single fact has lain at the heart of speculation about the spiritual and emotional breakdown of the Brown family's unorthodox marital pact. What had been sold to the world as a righteous unity among four spiritual friends unraveled under the weight of one man's conflicted soul. Early in the seasons, fans got to know a confident leader, juggling the complexities of plural marriage with a sense of purpose. But slowly, year by year, it became agonizingly clear. Cody's love increasingly concentrated on the current wife, with the first three, Christine, Janelle, and Mary, contending for space, for notice, for emotional reciprocated contact. With more and more public interviews and highly personal reflections surfacing increasingly frequently these seasons, Robin's tone shifted. Gone was the girl who had long been portrayed as the innocent newcomer. In her place stood someone more self-assured, and maybe even, in some minds, quietly arrogant. During a sit-down that was intended to ease lingering family tensions, Robin responded to what was ostensibly a trivial issue that had become representative of much bigger things, the luggage rack. To outsiders, it could be nothing, but for those first three wives, though, that luggage rack meant something else. A reminder of Cody's forgetfulness, of having to always stuff herself in while he spared himself the trouble and TLC of another. Robin's response? Offhand, she dismissed the complaint as silly and brushed aside the fact that she always had access to the rack by saying she simply got there first, something that many took as a backhanded insult to the others. But to the longtime fans and the ex-wives, though, the message couldn't be clearer. The pecking order was there all along, and even now, while the Browns' emotional wreckage is laid bare, the favourite wife is unrepentant. The former celebrity family gave the world a peek behind plural marriage, a complex fusion of multiple wives and their husband. But what started out as a bold social experiment has dissolved into schism, disillusion, and tragic loss. And now, the generation to come, the ones who came up living this reality, are finally taking back the narrative. Their voices, their wounds, and their healing are starting to become the new Brown family legacy. Because sometimes the truth is not spoken by the one who is loudest in the room, it's carried in the quiet pain of those who were too quiet for too long. While the world watched the family break apart, something became evident, something that most of the original sister wives had gone through discreetly for years. Time and again, as the family toured together, Cody Brown was always looking out for one woman's comfort above all the rest. It was a small thing, perhaps, a luggage rack, but to Christine, Janelle, and Mary, it was just one of many symbols for all that they were being denied. They remembered how their own possessions were always pushed out of the way, and Robin's always treated with kid gloves. And when the subject was finally discussed in a tell-all conversation, Robin did not flinch. She waved it off as silly, and casually said she always had the luggage rack because she got there first. But to steady audiences, and to the women who sacrificed years of their own lives in the interest of family, that flippant comment was revealing. It wasn't about bags, it was about pecking order on an emotional level, about one woman who automatically received the very things the others worked so hard for. Fans had long suspected. Her casual remark only confirmed their suspicion, and then Cody's blunt admission. After dancing around the question for more than a decade, he finally said what everyone had already assumed. Yes, he was closer with Robin. But then what he said unleashed a storm of anger. He explained the reason was self-evident, her loyalty. In 2 brief words, he dismissed the decades spent by the other wives raising his children, building homes, and being with him unconditionally. He described them as being unloyal, blaming them quietly for the collapse of the relationships. The public was enraged. Most saw it as a betrayal of the very things that were meant to hold a plural marriage together: respect, mutual sacrifice, equality of feelings. Instead of owning up to his part in the breakdown, Cody acted as if he'd been left by everybody, with the sole woman who never wavered. And Robin? In earlier interviews, she claimed she never wanted to be in the middle of Cody and his other wives. She described the beauty of sisterhood, of laughter shared, of being together, of respect. Her actions contradicted that. While Cody publicly bashed the mothers of his children, Robin remained silent. She did not stand up for them. She did not fight back. Instead, she humbly accepted the admiration, the one-way love, like it belonged to her all along. Her silence became complicity. And now that the emotional dust has finally settled, Robin appears to confirm what everyone had always suspected. Her place was never breached. Her experience within the family was different by nature, not tainted by the craziness, protected by privilege. And although she will not utter it in words, that unspoken recognition burns like salt in an open wound. And the ex-wives, Christine, Janelle, and Mary, all have withdrawn from the spiritual devastation, choosing freedom, peace, and self-discovery instead of dysfunction. This isn't the story of a dysfunctional family. It's a story about disparity disguised as unity, about bias hidden beneath religion, and about three women finally choosing themselves after decades of being last in line. Because the truth somehow manages to surface, and in this case, it was in the little things, like a luggage rack. As the years went by, both of the former wives stepped forward to speak candidly about the pain they suffered during the past few years of their union. One confessed that she felt invisible, slowly losing interest from her husband. Another revealed that being continually ignored had stripped her of her self-esteem. And a third have found an empowerment path, showing the world that freedom, happiness, and satisfaction are wholly real, even outside the confines of a polygamous marriage. After more than a decade of observing this family grow on television, fans are now flocking to message boards and social media, criticizing the behavior and attitude of the sole woman still standing by Cody's side. To some, Robin Brown's brusqueness in response to her sister wife's suffering is tone-deaf, even heartless. She has been accused of callously brushing over emotional scars with a smirk and a shrug, rather than the compassion one might expect from someone who shared decades of life, motherhood, and faith with these women. The critics argue, if in fact she grieved the failure of those marriages, she would not so readily ridicule their pain, or lay claim to being the last wife standing without at least lip service to the cost. And so, as Sister Wives approaches another milestone, a deep irony is revealed. What was initially a production meant to extol the beauty and harmony of plural marriage has instead become an experiment in emotional disproportion, partiality, and ego. The patriarch, now under law and before God bound to one woman alone, is still in denial of responsibility for the alienation of his past partners and children. He claims it was not his doing, even while the devastation is spread around him. And that woman by his side, she looks more than ever before, wearing a crown she once complained she didn't want, that of the privileged wife. But viewers at home are left wondering, is that gold crown, or loneliness disguised as privilege?